Ladies and gentlemen,
Here.
welcome to the vibe, to the exploring thoughts with a curious observer. And you know what? Welcome aboard, my friend Alonzo Elizondo, right? And
Yeah,
brother, welcome. How's it
dude.
going?
Man, I'm happy to be here, bro. Happy to be here. Glad to see
Yes.
you out here putting in this great work.
Well, aren't we all just wondering? Aren't we all just
Yeah.
wondering what's going on before we open up the vortex of curiosity? A little bit of a little bit about Alonso. We go way back. I remember the very first day he entered into Texas State as within the jazz world. We were, I believe, it was Jazz Combo,
Jazz combo.
room one
Yes, sir.
nineteen
That's it.
and with I believe it was with Morris Nelms, was it?
It was with Nelms. Yes, sir.
Yes, dude. Brilliant man, great thinker. I've always respected his eye and how he views, and especially the way he talks about jazz and history, the whole gambit, right? Along those lines, especially. And one thing I wanted to bring up was you are the very reason I started to dive into the altered scale. And for those who
Oh.
are non-musicians, you're wondering what the heck is that? Of course, it's I would describe it as like a code of playing through jazz, playing through within the context of like, all right, we're just gonna just play sounds through these metal things, and one, two, three, and here we go. And I was listening to you play this language so beautifully, and I remember, bro, how do you do that? What is it that you see, man? Man, it's just the altered scale, and you're expressing like you're overthinking it. It's actually right here. This is how you do it. And I remember taking that to heart, and that opened my eye. And like for me, it
Wow.
was a confidence breaker, especially when we're in college. A lot, we're wondering what the heck we're doing in the first place, right?
Yes.
And to feel a nugget of confidence, oh, I can do that, and you showed me. And wow, brother, thank you for sharing me insights. And there's of course a lot of shout outs I can share about that kind of insight through music, and you're certainly one of them. So what
Thanks,
else would
man.
you like to share that people may find interest? I know you're teaching right now currently, right?
Yeah, so I have switched gears and I'm going to be going into public school teaching. Hopefully next fall. I was hoping to do it this fall,
Mm-hmm.
but with COVID and all that stuff, I was just like, I was like, I don't think I want to do that because I was also starting my master's in music education at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I didn't want to be too overwhelmed with what I was doing. I wanted to make sure if I wanted to, do something, I can give it 100% to it. So I didn't want to be working and giving
What a
that like
time.
80%. So I'm just doing that and practicing. I haven't played a gig.
Just on that real quick, isn't it curious how much certainly both of us could have never forecasted or predicted such a different kind of lifestyle of patterns and just experience through each unfolding day, and yet we can still sow through it the kind of like the outcomes that you wish to pull out from study and
Yeah.
investing time into having that turn into an experience that you could reap from in terms of education. And now all of a sudden it's like we fell into this net, this virtual net. As much as,
Yes.
imagine if there is no virtual net and everyone was at home and no one could communicate. Oh my goodness, what an entirely different reality. The kind of anxiety, the kind of uh, is it fair to say the natural fog, the natural blind that kind of fog would be, but the internet is like the thing that it's like another kind of vision. Not
Yeah.
I don't want to say night vision, but like a kind of vision I could see through the fog. That's
Yeah.
what comes to mind when you see that, especially what was the expected to be, and here we are instead.
Right. So like, I think if we did not have the internet right now, the fear mongering would be like a totally different level. I think there would be chaos all over the place, super chaotic. We're already divided as a country right now, even with the internet. And the thing I like about the internet is we have access to all of this information. If you've ever wondered what might be the truth about something, you can actually go look for yourself. You know, you don't have to ask somebody. You don't have to rely on somebody. You know, oh, like this is a noble man, so surely what they say is true, and it could be totally total opposite.
And what's the underlying constant across all views? Would you say that that thing that kind of equivalent to a night vision, or let's just call it fog vision, just for a lack of a better phrase, if there's a better phrase, sorry, but I'm just going to say that for now. That putting on of what's the underlying thing that is a? I guess what I'm trying to say is. And by the way, I'm always trying to like craft a thought in midair. So I welcome you to carry it if you see where it was going. I think where I was going with that is the constant across all the seeking and receiving all information is the bottleneck that we still call phone. And yes, I even put a camera there. I mean,
Yes.
I even tag it up because my brother's worked in technology since 2000 and something that he shared insight through that, you know, is through the question, is it possible that, you know, that anything that has a camera does it bear a capacity for a sort of monitoring? And since then it was always yes, and he was always looked at as a weirdo. And you know, he works for a school district. He owns a business in specifically security and programs and programming. I don't know the exact terminology for. He doesn't have a brand. It's just his work in Laredo, and it's quite amazing to see the kind of insights that he's seen since then turn into. I guess a living for him, and he eats, breathes technology, and so I guess I'll just leave it like that. What comes to mind?
So I think technology has been, you know, for our generation in particular, I feel like we're the last generation that got an experience life without the.
Yes, dude.
You know, we got to grow up drinking out of a water hose, looking for your friends, looking to see where bikes are at. You know, you have to. I remember when the
Playing
internet
basketball
first,
outside.
yes, like we from when the internet first came out, I remember you couldn't even be on the phone. Like if you needed the internet, you couldn't talk on the phone. Your phone line was tied up. So to see now, like the instant gratification that everyone's getting from a very young age. Because when we were young, we had to explore, get hurt, get a,
We had to
you know,
deal
we had to
with
deal
the
with
lack.
consequences. Yes, we had to deal with
Such a
whatever
first
was
world
right there in
problem.
front of us. Right, first world problem. And now the kids, they want. I've noticed this through, teaching. I've been teaching private lessons for the past 10 years. So I've noticed as the time has went
By the
on.
way, anyone here, y'all should find some music of this guy playing. I've been playing with him even outside of school, and I appreciate you involving me in your gigs and up in Austin
For sure.
with all those bands, man, and even introducing me to, I believe, Rest in Peace, Dozen Street. Is that
Oh
right?
yes, that's right.
I found a card by Jackie. What's her name? With the curly hair, great guitar player.
Jackie Vincent.
Vincent, yes.
Yes.
When she was first showing up there, and it's beautiful to watch how much she's exploded
Yes.
in terms of
It's amazing.
a potential of that was just waiting to be recognized by the public eye, right? And
She is
incredible talent, very very creative. And I found one of her cards when I was looking through my boxes, cleaning through my boxes, and I saw, I was like, hey, that's cool. And I even sent it to her, and she messaged back and said, "Rest in peace, Dozen Street." And I was like, no, that was a hub of creativity, a
Lots
hub
of creativity.
that it was like a gem of Austin. And so I say all of that. Trumpet player, great musician. Anyone familiar with Alonzo knows that. Yes, dude. We got to jam soon. But I interrupted. You were saying
Oh, you're good, man. You're good. It's your
You're
show, man. It's your
no, no,
world.
we're just hanging, bro. But it's also yours because we're sharing space. We're just sharing space, so it's a mutual show. So you're talking about trumpet teaching
Instant
online. There you go.
gratification.
There
Yeah.
you
So
go.
the students, as time went on, the earlier they were exposed to technology in their life, I noticed the harder it was. And so I was like, okay, because they're lacking the people. They didn't have to get up and go outside, talk with their friends, possibly have the friends as we used to back in the day call it high siding. But now it would
What's
be called
that?
bull high siding or roasting somebody, making fun of someone, jokes, stuff
Okay,
like that.
okay.
So now
Like
it would be considered bullying. But back then, you have
that was memeing.
right. So back then, you have on the wrong kind of shirt. People are going to go in on you when you show up. So you have to build like this toughness up at a young age. And I wouldn't necessarily say toughness. I'll say more of a just
Understanding.
an understanding, more understanding of the reality of how people act. Because you had a variety, more of a wider variety of personalities. You
Like
had
then
your bully, you had your quiet person, you had your smart person. You had a large variety, which nowadays everyone is just like at home playing like Xbox Live. We were young. We were like middle school when Xbox Live first came out. I remember us having to play, go to your friend's house. Hey, you bring your controller, you bring your controller, we got our controllers. Versus now, you can play with everyone all over the world. So it's more the instant gratification, and you don't have to hang out. Like hanging out these days means, oh well, let's all get like 8 of us to go on Xbox Live. This is what we're gonna do all weekend. Versus
true.
hanging out in our days was like, hey, we finna go out here. We maybe go ride the bikes around the neighborhood. Let's go down here by this water. Let's throw some rocks, try to skip the rocks. And just with that, you might spend 30, 45 minutes just trying to skip some rocks. It might take you 10, 20 minutes to get down to where the water's at. So just right there,
So led by curiosity versus led by stimulus along those lines. But
right.
even though curiosity is a stimulus, so I don't know how to get more clear towards that direction. But
It's the instant gratification because it's processing feelings. Like we actually have to sit down and think about stuff. Now it's just like instant. And pop culture is showing these people what to do. We didn't have, pop culture stuff showing us what to do. We were pre-reality TV life.
and now we're experiencing reality TV.
Yes. And like I tell people, in my opinion, I think that politicians, like presidents and all that stuff, is a representation of the country at the time. So yeah, this stuff in the White House seemed freaking TV show. It's because we're used to living in like a reality TV show.
Hmm.
Like everything is crazy. Like the news, crazy on like CNN, Fox. All these
Is there
labels.
revenue in that kind of thing?
Exactly, there's revenue in the drama. That's how you keep people's attention. People aren't going to stop to think, oh, well, how can I create this business? No, they're like, oh, I need to watch Power. You see the finale of Power, something
Would
like that. For
would you
example.
say that's along the lines of the hilarious comedy movie with Will Ferrell? You know what I'm talking about? When they capture a transition in, well, I'll just say it, Anchorman.
Anchorman, okay.
Like what do you see through that, especially in the eyes of today?
Through Anchorman?
Yeah.
Honestly, Ricky Ray, I haven't seen Anchorman in like since it first came out. So I don't even
So
remember what it's even about.
so check this out. Let's
Let's
I would
dive
say
in there.
let's dive in there. So I'm along the same lines as you in terms of it's such a vague distance, but it's still close enough to there's like a that feeling when you play your instrument and sometimes like the light bulb shakes at a particular note for some reason.
Yes.
It's the frequency it equates it so it I don't know what to call it, resonates with it. So I felt that same kind of parallel with watching today's reality TV and that movie. And I think what I see, and I'm curious if this resonates with you in terms of recall, is how much And anyone watching this right here, you're welcome to correct me if I'm totally off, or if I'm missing details, or anything that comes along the lines that perhaps that you see too. Write it down in the comments below. You are welcome. I want to read them, and I'd be happy to pull them up and just just see what it is. What are other people thinking? What is it that other people are seeing? So along the lines of, journalism was this very noble, tell the truth no matter what, always being honest. And I'm being a little bit on the generalization side, just because I'm trying to, my memory isn't serving me in terms of, perhaps I wasn't paying that much attention when I was younger watching that movie, but that's what I took from it. And that there is a transition of, that things, that not telling the truth and telling lies, essentially. I'm being very black and white in terms of explanation, but the idea of it, that it was that there was a switch, and things got real crazy and hilarious, hence the ridiculousness of that movie. But capturing that there is a bit of a switch that occurred in terms of journalism. Does that ring a bell? Does that resonate? What comes to mind?
Yeah, it seems like people are more brainwashed by the media than like it was like back when we were coming up. Like people really rely on the news, and the news is like you can tell they're lying. You could be living something that they're talking about, and you're living like the total opposite, and you can still look at the news and they'll tell you, no, this is what's happening. And people, even though they're living a certain way, they're like, oh, that is what's happening. They're clearly not dealing with that. But when we were coming up, people had questions. It's like nowadays people don't ask questions no more. Like, oh, you're automatically expected to believe the show, believe the movie. It's like, oh, this movie, oh, this is reality now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I'm being asked through the social media discourse.
Man,
isn't that great? Well, I'll just say that what comes to mind right now. I just want to hear it.
Man, people be going in on you, man. I'm like, you guys need to just like read the information. If you know what gets me about people, is they know you're intelligent. This goes for you. People just enjoy and know. If you know a person is a certain way, and now they start sharing this information, why on earth would you start being like, oh, like, what's wrong with you, man? You're really falling off the deep end. Like, I'm reading some of these people's comments. It takes everything inside of me to not just like go ham. I'm just like, dude, like, this is insane. This is like, we live in a time now, Ricky, Ray, that like, it's everything, all the lies are just like in plain sight. Just like,
well, I I'm curious what comes to mind of those that really are doing deep. Because I'll be honest, I can speak for those friends as well. Like I have respect for them for going into the deepest of dives in terms of research and information consumption, of credible, peer reviewed, all that kind of stuff, and yet there is that kind of, like what you said, that kind of reaction. The Even those who are of within, with all due respect, right, who are professors, and with of such kind of line of questioning or line of observation wonders, perhaps.
They be the main ones.
I do feel a sense of, like, as how do I say? I'm not sure if I'm saying the right word. You're welcome to correct me. This is just what comes out. I feel that there is an arbitration of such views that anything that goes questions it, perhaps, or even raise just uncertainty of it, as clear as it may be, that the kind of response is, what I would like to see is a welcoming, well, why do you think that way? Can you help me understand why you don't understand it, or why you feel, heck, even suspicious of it? Who's anyone to be suspicious of anything, right? Like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a politician, I'm not a journalist, I'm not, any political science major or anything like that. I feel that curious observer just resonates so strongly with me because in terms of describing my I recognize I'm not any of that. And it seems as though that there's a lot of knowing of what is going on from both sides of the aisle. And I have respect for these people and I have no desire to, you know, who am I to try to chop anyone down? And then what I see, I appreciate people reaching out in the DMs and say, okay, Ricky Ray, tell me what you think, because I don't understand why anyone could support someone that represents fascism, racism, xenophobia, and all these. There's a list, of course, with all due respect, perhaps it could all be recognized as true.
Yeah.
And my wonders, my eye sees that there's a clash in lenses. There's a clash in lens over here, clash in lens over here. How could you support anybody that is, the list? And the other side is how could and that's their justification, by the way, to not support Mr. Orange. And then the other side of the spectrum is, I don't understand how anyone could support such, suggestive the reasons why they would, their justifications to not support the person that's projected to be the president, right? So it's like, so there it's almost as though the fight is in like different planets, and they're fighting very hard, and like they don't represent racism or fascism, and these people don't represent the supporting of the possible corruption of a, people are suggesting a family, an entire dynasty, the years worth of possible collusion of, the things that have been brought up in the culture war today. So they're so far removed that conversation can't happen. And which is why probably, in my opinion, it seems so ugly. And perhaps it should be ugly through their eyes if the things that they were seeing each other through was the exact case. And if it's not the case, then what else is it doing? And I don't know. You're welcome to share a thought here. I'm ranting here, but it's certainly feeding into a very concerning divide.
Yeah, and see, listening to you say this, talking about lenses, I didn't even want to go this route, but like,
be honest as long as you're honest.
Yeah. So being in the lenses of a black man in America.
Of a what, pardon?
Of a black man in America.
Oh, wait, you're black. That's right. What's up, bro?
Like when you were talking about people worried about families getting destroyed, stuff like that.
And just because like, I feel good coming out of that. Can you get the microphone closer to you, just so I can? Yeah.
It's my computer microphone.
It's on good. I just feel the goodness, and I want people to hear it, and I want to make sure that people feel like they can hear your heart.
Yeah, it's interesting. So going back to lenses and how people don't want you to go against or anything like that. I feel like I've had awakening as a black man in America because growing up I was diehard Democrat, like, oh, these are the good people, this is great, following this, following that. But like when Obama became president, it's like I was disappointed because I thought it was going to be different than things in the past. Like, oh, it's someone that looks like me, and we've been fighting and struggling for all of these equality and rights and all of this stuff, and finally we made it. And then I started like.
Before you go there, if I may, I feel juice there. What are your thoughts? And perhaps you could say it after this thought. What would you say to those who did see, it did change, things did get better, and I'm very curious what you see through that. I don't know through either lens, so I especially go for
it. What I can tell those people is that I can only speak for what I see through my lens. They feel that way, then hey.
Did you say you could only speak for yourself?
Yeah. I can only speak for myself because like I'm the only person that sees things, so I can't speak for them. I don't know what they were seeing or what they were feeling or anything, but like I noticed that the last 4 years of his presidency, I was scared. I'm
So
scared.
it broke down there. Did you say that you were scared?
Scared.
Okay,
Yes. Yes, I was very scared because
as a
we
black
had
man.
been we had been pumped with right. So we had been pumped up with this narrative that like the police are out to kill us, white people hate us, we're like not accepted in society, everything that we want to do is hard. But I'm like, as I'm navigating through my life, I'm like, and I'm observing other, black people around me. I'm like, this is not what's happening. I don't I don't see this.
I have a question there.
Yeah.
I've had this exact conversation with an individual that, and I personally found it surprising. Once again, I can only speak for myself, and I've heard the lens through other lenses like yourself that say similar observations. And this good friend of mine suggested when he was watching, the unfolding of George Floyd protests and all that whole wave and all those videos that came up of other people, other truly. There's a great Instagram. I don't remember the name of it. Perhaps I'll place it somewhere here. It's essentially a collection of police brutality, and I think it's specifically to black people or just overall police brutality. And to me, I don't understand why people could feel so passionate of this claim, of this truth, and my friend was saying to the point that he was actually feeling a willingness to under like to justify. They go to justify looting to be as a form of expression, even though it's the physical affliction that invites further damage, not just in the mind, but especially in the physical and even flesh. So that that there has been such fears, there have been such experiences. There have telling me a personal anecdotes of being falsely accused, tackled, that kind of thing, and having this weird vibe in the car, after being pulled over, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Now I can't speak for him. I could only speak for the shared what was shared about the feeling of what you're saying, that well actually I have felt that, and perhaps it's the great selective if I may introduce a thought, if media is playing selective magnifications of certain situations, something like that, say a George Floyd, can certainly recall such pains that have been experienced across a community of peoples, across colors, across experiences, and across generations, and a recall, like a peeling of an old wound of sorts, either old or even recent. And then something like that pops up, and as much as there's people that like yourself that haven't had those experiences, there's it seems now that there have been people that have had those experiences. So it's like I don't want to say, I'm just going to say, in my opinion, through my eyes, and perhaps if there's a better word, I will help. I invite you to spit that. And that is a convenient recruitment of expression of a problem that others like yourself can't speak for. I can't speak for. Um, I don't, in my honest opinion, I don't know that many people that have experienced those kinds of things. Although I can say that I do know people that have experienced such things, and and it's just very curious to watch it play out. What comes to mind?
Yeah, and now what the thing is that I've had bad experiences with police. Don't get me wrong. Bad experiences to Caucasian males and stuff like that. But there's jerks in every race. Has jerks.
Oh,
They're
for
gonna be
sure.
people. So, but and I was just like, okay, but to the degree that the media was like pushing this, it was all like, like for instance, like how you're getting lit up right now. When I denounced Black Lives Matter, I got lit up. Oh my god, it was crazy. I got phone calls, I got text messages, messages on Facebook, family members freaking out, parents freaking
How
out.
dare you denounce,
Yeah,
brother?
how dare I denounce? I
So
just had to tell them.
therefore, it raises the question: what when someone like yourself, Alonzo, uh, states a statement such as the denouncing of BLM, right? Uh, what exactly does that mean? Because one can perceive that as, oh, you're a racist, then you're on that side. You're the one that, how can anyone justify the not supporting of something that must be supported? How can anyone deny even just the utterance of I don't support? It raises the question, is it that or is it something else? And
Right.
I'm
So
curious. Go for it.
yeah, you would think people know me, who I am. They would be like, "Oh, well, what's going on? What happened?" But it was the total opposite effect. I got called race traitor, coon, sellout, you name it. And I was like, "Oh, great! This is exactly why I denounced this because, like, if Black lives truly mattered, we wouldn't see all of this death. We wouldn't see songs on the radio talking about killing each other. Like, I don't really see any other race making songs about harming each other as much as my race does. And there is the white supremacy machine is making stupid cash money, crazy amounts of cash money. And if you go back to like the '90s, there is a clear switch.
Back when?
Back in the early '90s, back in the
Okay.
early '90s, there is
This
a
is the
clear
is this the
switch.
whole crime bill?
This is like right when that was coming out. There was a whole switch. Rap music gets switched over to what they call gangster. So that's when they talked promoting shooting, killing, and
Is that
robbing, and
why
selling
people who
drugs.
really love rap, there's always this acknowledgement of like I love rap, but like the old school rap, like the very beginning wave. Is that why that is
because
said?
because that rap educated, it educated, it what's the word? I can't think of the word. Anyway, it like educated us, brought us
It
together.
offered insights that perspectives that perhaps could not be
Right,
found in the say neighborhoods or
right,
barrio. That it was like it was equivalent to I guess how people are gaining information today, even outside of the institutions that perhaps may still offer insight. As much as people want to criticize, well, why is anyone listening to those sources? Those are a bunch of conspiracies and blah 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 and all those things. And you know what? It's just some dude. And yes, you're right. It's all true. And I'm very curious by the question of is it limited to that? Is
oh
that
man.
kind of well, we shouldn't listen to
See,
that kind of thing, limited to, for example, the lens of YouTube or some dude? And like you were saying with the early rap, I'm not sure if I'm drawing a clear enough parallel.
so yeah, so like early rap talked about like liberating us. It was a continuation of like civil rights. It was a continuation into talking about what's really going on in our neighborhood. How can we really make ourselves better based on the situation that we. But then, like right before that crime bill came, here comes this big switch. Now, like the violence is like on a whole different level. Because this is right after the crack epidemic. This is right after that.
There was seriously a crack academic.
Crack
What's that word?
epidemic, yeah.
Epidemic. I was like, at Pat,
Oh,
what?
Ricky Ray. Oh my gosh, dude, where should I even begin? So let me give you just a quick
Okay, go for it,
rundown.
man.
So once the civil rights Once everyone got the right to vote and everyone's created equal in the 60s, everything was cool. LBJ signed everything, everything was good. However, when he did that, he already stated that they were going to have the Negro vote.
That you broke out there. They're gonna have to what?
They were going to have the Negro vote for years to come because they did on Democratic Party.
Now, I have a question on that. Just
Yeah.
out of just here, honestly, I've always heard the whole LBJ, said that statement, and I try to, hear like, okay, I want to hear where that's coming from exactly. And as much as I can deep dive into that specific search, I don't know. I I can't find where that is, and that's just me. Can you help me,
Bro, I
perhaps?
will happily send all this stuff.
Okay, and
I
what
will
would you
send it to
say
you.
it's along the lines of where it's coming from?
I found this in an interview. It's like a
Anyway,
written out. Like I found this like an interview transcript of somebody that it did some
okay,
years ago. Because the person that first showed me this was like, God, this was probably I was still in junior college. This was like 2010 when
hmm.
I first saw this. So I wouldn't be surprised if it got even taken down on this time. But I'm gonna try to find it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that
reach
that
out to him and look for it.
okay.
Because like it's like, dude, like so from there we went into welfare 1970. Okay, we'll give you help, we'll give you housing, give you food. There's one rule, one big important rule: can't have a man.
Would you say it was stated in that manner, or would you say that it
No
was
male.
framed as a, should you be in an economic need, such as the the absence of a father? Is that like along the lines of what you're talking about? That you would qualify for such benefits? I'm not
So yeah,
sure.
let's say
Go for it.
if you went to Vietnam, you come out of Vietnam, can't find a job, you're like PTSD hasn't been diagnosed yet, you're going crazy. No
Hmm.
one will hire you. You got kids to feed. You got mouths to take care of. So the government says, okay, you can't help yourself. Well, we'll help your family, and we'll give them housing, these housing vouchers. We'll give them food stamps, give them
Food stamps,
big
all right?
stuff
Okay.
like that, things like that. And but you just can't be around. Can't be. No males are allowed. If you got caught with a male in there, you get kicked off and you get in trouble. My parents were telling me, like when it first happened, this is another story. My parents lived through this. They
Ooh,
lived through
talk
integration.
about an
They were,
eye.
yeah. So they were like they went through integration. Like they lived whites only family stuff. Like they lived through all.
I think that's by the way, real quick on that. I think if I may encourage anyone listening and have extended family who live through such times and are especially on the spectrum within the political culture war, are like, I don't know what's going on. I don't care. I'm just trying to live my life, that kind of thing, and perhaps in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even then, you know, I get curious to see if you can see what they saw through conversation with them, and it's very curious
Yeah.
to see to see how that affects our own eye and how it's described through their personal anecdote, of course, but in terms of as a sort of a as a sort of lens, not as an absolute, of course, because that's now we have to go into the credibility, the sourcing, the where's the data and all that kind of thing. But in terms of as a lens of perspective. So going back to your parents, you were saying.
Yeah, yeah, so they lived through immigration. They saw the goods and the bads of it. And I've heard several, I have even, friends around my parents' age. They all told me that life was a lot better pre-integration. I was like, what? Like, really? Yeah, like, I need to. This when I sat down, I was like, I need to listen. What's going on? And they were talking about just basically how I'm feeling today.
You're
Is
feeling
that
the way you're feeling, like
yeah,
the way
like
you're feeling like today. Okay.
yeah, they were already living like that. They were living with like black men could work in the neighborhood. factory in the neighborhood. You know, you could go work at the factory, retire, and have a pension, all this stuff. Take care of your family. You got plenty of land. You got farm animals. Everything's good, right? So then integration comes in.
A lot
All
of
of
the small
that
towns are like that. Yeah.
being. So I grew up in a small town, and 5,000 people. And so once the integration happened, like those kind of jobs just kind of just slowly trickled away, vanished. For instance, look at Detroit. It was once like Motor City, tons of factory jobs back in the day,
I keep
tons of
hearing
factory
that
jobs.
I always hear that Detroit reference that, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's they used to be this hub of renaissance of commerce of a sort of gold mine of the of for the country, and since there's been outsourcing of those jobs in overseas, I believe specific or mostly to China. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's even weird to even say that. And shall we recall this very moment how much in our youth into today, always wondering why is everything made out in
Yeah.
China? Oh, it's just
Oh, we
something you
still wonder
say.
that.
That's just something you say. There's nothing to there's really no understanding, and there's a almost a sort of like brand, like, oh, if it's made in China, that's cool. Like everything, I'm familiar with that. That's my cereal that I eat. I don't know, that kind of feeling, or that's the kind of music I listen to. Uh, and it's interesting to hear stories like the Detroit, that the effect that it's had, and I could only imagine in the whole country, but clearly in the city. Is that along the lines?
Yeah, and you know the economic impact it's had on primarily black people and poor white people, and primarily those two groups are affected a lot because they were more of the laborers working in factories, you know, building things versus, you know, everyone else gets sent to college. You know, college is such just like it was when we were in school. Oh, go to college, everything's great. But yeah, so they went through all of that, and they said everything was just completely different. It felt safer. It was more family oriented things. Everybody was closer. You know, you had your matriarchs in the family. You know, your big gatherings, the holidays were huge. Lots of people just love family. Everything was great. But like I say, go into war, and you know, black guys are basically tricked into women
Or trade away?
essentially. I say a lot of people of color were essentially tricked into going to Vietnam. Like, how are you going to fight for a country that hasn't even given you the right? So it's like, so they go there, they get PTSD or shell shock, as they call it back then. Can't get a job, can't work anywhere. We've integrated, your jobs are now gone. So we, like I say, we help your family in 1970 warfare. And then keep on going. Here comes the crack epidemic in the 80s. So all of these unemployed men are now either going to do two things. They're either going to become users or they're going to become sellers
Users or what?
or sell or
Sellers.
suppliers,
Okay.
sellers.
Supply, yeah.
One of the two, because they're either going to try to get the money as best as they can, or they're just gonna be done with life and they like can't take more of the situation. So let's just do the cracking. It's a wrap.
Easy
So you go
money.
from that
Gotcha.
easy money, right? So if you listen to like rap like Funk Master Flex or even like Big Daddy Kane, and people like that, they're talking about what's going on with this crack. Like they're talking about it in their music. And so you could take that, so all these people on crack, and now all of a sudden this substance, which is they're not that much different from cocaine. It's basically made as a base of cocaine. Now
Hmm.
all of a sudden that is like you get 40 years selling crack. How in the world can you get 40 years? I have relatives that have gotten 40 years for selling crack. 40 years. 40 years for selling crack. That's thanks to the 1994 crime bill. What also happens around that time, got all the crap going. Now the rap music turns into selling dope, shooting people, robbing people,
Okay.
disrespecting women. You see, so and people aren't stopping and going back to look at, oh well, how is this connected to this? You know, how are we doing this? How is this working? How, oh well, yeah. So I see that there's a drug problem. Why? Where is this coming from? So essentially, that's where your ghettos were created. You know, like shows like The Wire. That show, that The Wire is a result of all of that stuff.
The
This is a
Wire. What
result.
show is that?
The Wire. That is about. It's about Baltimore. It's about selling drugs, people using drugs, killing, all that kind of stuff, murder, robbery.
I've seen the title of it. I gotta be honest, I haven't delving into
Oh man,
that.
it's one of my favorite shows. But
Seems like I'm
you know,
missing out.
it's a great show. But you know, that's the timeline. So like when I speak about these kind of issues, like I'm speaking with that in mind. Like I'm like, hey guys, this is not just like in order to believe in white supremacy, you have to believe you're inferior. In order for me to believe that my life doesn't matter just as much as a white person, I have to believe that I'm less than. So that's why
Interesting.
I disassociated with Black Lives Matter because that's messing up the psyche of black people and women and kids. You're training these kids to be scared to death of the police. So in turn, that kid or person, anybody, is because everybody's scared. You know, take race out. You know, it's black, white, brown, whatever. You want to go home. So if someone pulls me over and I'm scared of the police, and I start making sudden movements, the police is scared because they're trying to get home. Then what's going to happen?
And you know what? Perhaps even I don't know if this is a stretch. You're welcome to check me on this. You know, like I feel more comfortable just on well, I'll say it like this. I'm from Laredo, and the population of Laredo is, I think it fluctuates between 80 to 90% of Mexican descent, of Latino descent, of Tejano, Hispanic, whatever you want to call it. And for me, I remember the first time I would go to San Antonio. I don't know, like say we're in the mall, and there happened to be people who were very light of color and all kinds of shades of color. And I remember specifically with white people, just the people that people call white people, and I recognize like, oh, those are those people, right? I remember feeling this huge sense of intimidation, a huge sense of like,
Yes.
where am I? I was just a kid, right? I was maybe 8 years old, perhaps, maybe younger. I just remember walking through and feeling, where am I? I got this paranoia because from Laredo, growing up there, it's everywhere you go, any direction you see, it's Latino, Hispanic, Tejano, Chicano, and I recognize that when I left Laredo, it was all in my head. That feeling was, everyone is an individual trying to figure things out, no matter the
Right.
generation, no matter the age, no matter the perceived color that is clearly visible. Everyone is an individual trying to figure things out. At the root of experience, right? And of course, I'll raise this question to your mind, and I'm curious what comes to mind. What do you say to those who feel perhaps, well, there has been a large momentum of those who happen to be in the lighter side of the spectrum with intergenerational, I call it momentum of wealth, that perhaps have been handed through, and those who never experienced life as a family across generation without that kind of wealth. I'll leave it there, kind of in the air. I'm curious if you can help me resolve that 5 of 5.
So, yeah, what exactly are you wanting me to answer?
I guess what
Like,
comes to mind. I think that's what it is.
what comes to mind about?
Oh, so I got into I twisted myself there
Yeah, I
with
was like, oh,
so let's explore here. By the way, y'all, this is the point of exploring thoughts with a curious observer. I'm told by people like, oh, why are you doing all these mental gymnastics? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just talking, and
being
sometimes
yourself.
I land it, like a lick, right? Sometimes you land it, and sometimes it's like,
Sometimes you don't.
okay, where are you going with that? It's kind of like free jazz. I'm like, damn it. Well, let's just say I'll leave it totally up in the air. What is it that comes to mind along those random knots of thoughts?
Uh, I was trying to figure out how to answer that. So you're wanting to know what I think comes across
I guess it was meant the mindset. There you go. The
the
mindset.
mindset of the people that are feeling like they're going to be attacked and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Let's try
All
that.
right. So, like I say, once again, let's go back. It's the programming. And to really go even further than all of this stuff is I think that race is used as a smoke screen.
Is a
Because I like,
smoke screen? Is that what you said?
oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Especially in this day and age, I think there are a small group of people that have a lot of money. And, like I used this example when I was talking to my dad a few weeks ago, actually. And I was saying, black people, Mexican people, we go to like the bank or something, and you're like, oh, I want to take out a $50,000 loan or something, or like let's say you applying for a line of credit, and they offer you got to run the same credit score. Maybe your credit score is like 2 or 3 points apart. Well, they're gonna offer me, or you a little bit less than what they're gonna offer one of our Caucasian fellows, because they think our Caucasian fellow is going to be able to pay this back a lot quicker and a lot easier than what we would. So in turn, what is happening is that white people think in their head, oh, they're giving me more. I'm inferior. I mean, I'm superior. I'm the one. But in actuality, at the end of the day, yes, you get more, but you have to pay that back. So you have to pay more back than what I would have had to pay. So that's why I say the only thing that separates us is tax bracket. That's it.
Is what?
Tax brackets,
Hmm.
income tax brackets. No matter what color you are, at the end of the day, you got to pay those taxes. That's the only race is green. That money. That's it. That's it. But in order to get that green flowing, you got to have some people believe they're superior, and some people believe they're inferior. Superior people, their belief, oh, I got money. I may not spend as frequently. When I spend, it's gonna be big,
So
real big.
not contingent on the color of a skin, but the color of their mindset.
Right, right, right.
Mm.
Exactly. So that's why I say, people try to think, oh, just because I'm black, this or just because I'm like this. At the end of the day, the only race is real money in America. That's it. Even like it's clear all around. It's all about money.
And you know what? That might help me bring something in full circle with the spiral that I went into about speaking to the family that lived through that time, and I was asking my tío, my uncle, questions along those lines, and he would mention. I asked him like, I think I asked him plainly, Theo, did you ever experience racism? And he's like, oh yeah, but we'll throw shit back at them, and then they would feel like, oh, okay, this guy can hang per se, and
And
there was
that
like
was going to be another thing I was going to say. With the BLM going on, is rendering black people helpless. Like
sorry, say it again.
I say, it's rendered with the BLM, the Black Lives Matter thing. It's rendering black people helpless. If there was
Rendering.
like a legit race war to break out, we are screwed. Because when I went to Academy to purchase a firearm, dude, that was a big awakening for me. The amount of Caucasian males in there I was just like, holy, I don't know if you can cuss on here, so I'm gonna say holy crap. So I just couldn't believe what I was saying. And the way that they were looking at me when I was buying it, when I was there to purchase the firearm, let me know that they're thinking we're supposed to be out there protesting, marching, and wanting to be equal, and they just in here getting ready, getting prepared. I'm like, holy moly, they're like, we're showing up to a gunfight with a cell phone.
Woo.
You know, they're
Well,
training us to show up to a gunfight with a cell phone.
oh,
Like you were saying, if they want to be able to put this on us, we need to be able to throw it back. Well, as time has gone on, you don't really see that happening too much. You don't really see people, as far as black people in particular, really standing up for themselves and saying, man, F this. I wish racists would pull up on me if you want to. You don't really see that. Now it's like, oh, my life matters. Say their names. Please stop killing. And no. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so, like, it's only going to work through political change policies. That's it. That's literally only change is going to happen is through policy.
I'm
But
curious what comes to mind there in terms of policy. What would you say the spectrum or percentage? How would you, in just your estimation, through just shooting from the hip, perhaps, or if they're sourcing that you'd like that you want to feel like actually I can pull from here. I'll just ask the question. Where would you say the balance of the conversation is playing a factor in, okay, who's going to represent us locally, who's going to represent us within the state, who's going to represent us as for example, as a president in the White House. What comes to mind for you?
and that's another
The
thing.
balance is it on the policy talk or is it on the political talk? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but
Here's
something
the
like
deal,
that.
man. When I realized that our politics are not going to change anytime soon, because this system is, they were smart about it, crafty about it, making smooth moves over the years. Because if our stuff like if our voice mattered when it comes to the actual country, we wouldn't have an electoral college. When I found out there was a popular vote in an electoral college, I was like, wait, I was like, time out, time out, time out. So you mean to tell me people are? I was like, so you mean to tell me people are out here like literally fighting, cussing each other out, ending friendships over these presidential candidates, and our vote does not matter? That's like we've taught kids.
It's
You
like
work
a
with kids.
suggestion.
It's a suggestion. I'm like, hey students, I think you should really probably work on that C concert B flat scale. And then I'm gonna come to class and be like, okay, we're gonna play F scale anyways. It's the same thing. Like I
All
already
right.
knew, even though I hadn't worked on a B flat, I already knew in my head I was gonna come to class and work on an F scale. I already knew it, even when I gave him the choice, say, oh, we're gonna do B flat. Oh yeah, we're gonna do F anyways. So that's how I look at the government. It's like a parent. Like it's Friday night. You're like, hey kids, what do you want to eat? Oh, 3 votes for pizza. Okay, pizza, 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 pizza. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're gonna have hamburgers instead. I don't feel like eating. That's how
Well,
our government does this.
I'm very curious
Yeah.
this is the current state of civil discourse, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to ask you this question. How did your information following, right, journey begin? At home, in school, because of friends, family?
My information journey began because things and what I was being told and what I was seeing were not lining up, and it started with church. That's where my searching, just being like, hey, I don't think this is not lining up with what I'm seeing. That was like the very first thing in my life that, hey, maybe you should go do some research about it. Then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I came to my conclusion about that. Then, I'm like, oh, next thing I know, like, for instance, when the, like the Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castile, all this stuff was happening, dude, I actually hated white people. I legit did
Oh,
not like
dang.
white people
So
because
would you
that's
say
what
you
I
went
was
through
being
the
trained.
phase?
I was trained to do that, and I realized that I'm like, this is not me. Like I've never felt this way towards
How did
anyone.
that switch occur? Like, boom, like at that, like, you know what? That kind of thing. Right there at that moment, that line.
Right there at that moment, it's because I don't watch TV, so I have a lot of time to think. And I was just sitting around thinking, I'm like, why do I wake up in the morning, get online, and my body just feels like I'm about to go to, like,
War.
why? Yeah, I'm like, why do I feel it? Why does it feel like I'm preparing for war today? As
Hmm.
soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like I didn't feel this way before. Like, what's going on? What's the difference between me and them?
Self-injection.
Right. So I'm actually at that time I started paying more attention to, the media, what was going on. And so, Black Lives Matter was really becoming a thing during this time, and I'm seeing people that look like me killed on television. Get killed. They're leaving their bodies out and everything on television. So that gets us out of your head. You're like, wait a second, man. Wait a minute. What's up with this? Why are we being treated like this? What's going on?
On that thread right there, towards the conclusion of this episode. And by the way, I want you to come back, man. Let's keep poking at
For sure, man.
especially as everything is exponentially revealing itself. I'd like to welcome your eye through the lens of this poem that came to me at on the 15th of October. It was on a Thursday at 7:53 p.m. and this has now gotten a second draft into it. So may I share these words, and I whatever immediately pops through your tongue, bro. Just I want to see what comes through. What comes through? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. What are we recycling anyway? What are those repetitive yet always seem so new and fresh? The sips we take, the food we make, the overwhelm of headlines that make our fist and head shake. Physically, our bodies are what is absorbed from consumptions we have allowed inside perceptively, whether it is good or not. Mentally, our minds are what is absorbed from the headline consumption, deep dives, investigations we have allowed inside perceptively, whether it is true or partially true, or a convenient truth, a redirective truth, a dilemma pulling from the pains of the past. So wear your mask, information so beautifully and effectively crafted. How can any eye be immune from deceptions and lies? And so that we can move on past this. What comes
Good
to mind,
stuff,
brother?
man. First thing that comes to mind: turn the TV off, turn the cell phone off, go out, get in the sun, clear your mind, see what the universe has to do.
So you see the what?
See what the universe has to say to you that day. Clear your mind, breathe, enjoy the fresh air, look at the trees,
Live.
all of the stuff we're doing now, these things right here, this ain't living. This is not living. Put everything down.
But
Just
it's
stop.
It's so real, bro.
Stop. We just stop. Just do it once a month. If we take once a month and just purely
Just fast from it.
technology.
Fast from the
technology.
portal.
Fast from the portal.
Let's call
Of
it
course,
that. Fast
if
from
your
the portal.
family, of course,
Oh, I think you broke out a
for
little.
emergency if something goes on.
Okay, gotcha.
Other than that, but other than that though, just fast from this fake life.
It's like perhaps we can even formulate it so that we turn off all the push notifications. Which, by the way, immediately I recognize that when us phones started to get progressively more advanced, and by the way,
gratification.
Does your phone vibrate when you grab it? Like, does it just vibrate? Like as soon as you grab it?
Sometimes,
yeah.
yes.
And I think it's beautiful because there's like oh, someone's reaching out. Whoa, hey, what?
It's scary,
I even get a little crazy. I'm like, I pick up my phone and I feel the vibration. I throw it back and I'm like, no, I'm picking it up because I want to, not because you're, nudging me to want to. No,
And
I want to look
man,
for it.
it's funny enough. I spend like 14 hours a day on my cell phone. And since COVID hit, I'm staying with my parents right now, back in my hometown. So since COVID hit, I'm in country life,
Reconnection, man.
reconnection. So now I don't even pick my cell phone up every day until around 1 p.m. I don't touch no technology for 1 p.m. I don't do it. So in my lesson studio, my student parents, they know it. Everybody knows for 1 p.m. I don't want to start my day off looking at my cell phone. I've gotten to the point when I set an alarm, I use an alarm clock. I don't use my cell phone.
Alarm clock. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
have an alarm clock set. I have it set to the local news station in town. So
Ooh. So you really feel the paradigm before the mega matrix of social
right,
media
right.
and the gravitational black hole suction in of wonder of of war of I can't believe there's this person in office, that kind of thing, or those dang libs, those dang libs, and we need to destroy, we need to smash. I'm like, whoa, how?
Everyone needs to chill. Everybody needs to chill.
I think this is the greatest of opportunities to wake from our patterns that are self-fulfilling, self-generating, self-curating, and
I'm,
by the way,
I'm
shout out to.
starting to see a lot of people really change, really for the better. Really realize that all of this stuff it's just temporary.
And perhaps it was an inevitable change because at the end of the day, this, the software, the miracle of communication, the miracle of such organized lighting. You know what I mean? We call it, oh, it's just a screen, man. The lighting
Uh,
that projects through it. We didn't make this. I didn't make it.
nope.
As much as my brother is like all into technology, and I've always felt I'm trying to learn from him. I'm kind of familiar with technology, but totally not, because that's just my brother kind of thing. That's just a feeling that I have. Ultimately, that feeling is not of our own. Like, we didn't make these programs,
And
and
see, that's why I say everyone needs to unplug. These feelings, these aren't our feelings. They're not ours. Though we do not own those feelings. Owning a feeling means when you smell that fresh air and your body feels calm and relaxed, you feel happy. That's your feeling. Own that.
you made me think of a good question. I think. Uh, I often hear of those who both sides of the spectrum, of those who are, let's just say, I recognize there's everything wrong with Biden, but we do need to calm down with the with we need politics to be quiet. We just can't wait for it to just quiet down, and that's why I'm voting for Biden. And as much as I agree with why there's all this fair justification why not to, I just want it to be quiet. And the thought that comes to mind for me, honestly, is this: how much is it likely that there are all those fair justifications to not support the President Trump, right? So it's like, oh, that's fair, because and all of a sudden, because of the portal, this is a bottleneck. And I don't is it likely that things can be placed and rubbed in all over my face and the face of many, to the point of dislike of an individual from the things that are fairly justifiably so? How could anyone support? And the rubbing of face, imagine if that kind of standard of criticism and concern were to be applied on the opposition of Mr. Orange. The kind and if it was, let's just say in an ideal world, that that those criticisms, those concerns, if they were equally distributed across this bottleneck and rubbed into our face, uh, I'm very curious how a perception, the battle of perception that's playing out, how that would take shape into discourse. What comes to mind? I'm all over the place there. I'm sorry.
I think that people need to demand more from their
Didn't
politicians.
need to demand pardon
I think people need to demand more from their politicians.
of their politicians.
Yeah, people need to demand way more of their politicians. There was once upon a time where people demanded stuff.
I don't know why there's a word there that I feel like the microphone is
Doesn't like.
blurring. Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
like there's too much truth. The government's
Uh,
I
but
was saying,
demand more
there was a once upon a time where you had to earn your vote as a politician. You had to earn the people's vote, and we've gone to such I don't know what would be the proper term for it, such narcissism and entitlement from individuals. And the politicians, they don't have to earn the vote. You got the people fighting. Joe Biden and Trump ain't have to do nothing to earn nobody's vote. But look how divided they got. You know, the division of the country is a bipartisan. You know, people try to blame it on one party. It's bipartisan. You know, left wing, right wing. It's the same. At the end of at the end of the day, it's all it's the same. And it's I think it's and for just and because it is the same, I think people demand more from the politicians. Like
of their
to
politicians.
demand more about student loans. Need to be more demanding about bringing back our manufacturing and stuff. Be more demanding about creating the entry level job again for people that graduate college. When you graduate college, there is no entry level job anymore. It's gone. You got all this debt and you can't find a job. You shouldn't go to college and then wind up working in a factory for like $13 to $15 because you can't find a job. Not your fault. They just like I tell people, they get every generation with something. It's politicians. And they got us with student loans. They got our generation. Millennial generation. Dude, look up the student loan debt in just the millennial generation. You will be
Well, I
like,
believe it because I used to work in financial aid at Texas State, and just the kind of documents that one gets to that one has to sort to and through, and therefore gets to see the kinds of tens and especially hundreds of thousands of buckaroos being indebted to these. I'm now looking at it at the time, like as from my shoes today, and like all these kids all these kids
absolutely.
are with respects to, well, I'm an adult, of course you are, but at the same time there's spectrums within adults, and certainly within the entry of the 20s, it's yeah, certainly a degree of kid in, especially entering university and seeing, and perhaps this is not those people who don't have this kind of debt, but there certainly are those people who are tied up so deep in such debt. So uh, I would not be surprised with further investigation of how, you know,
And another thing is
what
that
it looks like today.
we don't have representation in politics. There needs to be term limits on this stuff. We don't have this. What we have going right, like the policies and stuff, are not reflective of our generation. Like we are the generation that's going to be taking care of it. And how can we take care of America if we're crippled in debt? We can't. We can't keep the economy driving. So what's going to happen? More jobs are going to get outsourced to other countries. Watch, Ricky. Give it by the time we're 40. Watch how jacked up things are going to be by the time we're 40. Just watch, because that's when you're supposed to be contributing a lot to the economy, like age 30, 35, 36, something like that, and up. Like we're supposed to be like really helping drive the economy. You know, mortgages, car loans, personal loans. You know, buying a bunch of stuff for the house, buying a bunch of stuff for the kids, putting the kids, getting ready to put some kids through college, building up stock markets, putting money into that. But if we don't have it, how? If we live in a consumer economy, how is that going to survive when we ain't got it? Everything keeps going up, but the wages aren't changing. And so, like, unlike the generation before us, I say, yeah, unlike those generations, like our student loans are like super duper compared to our previous generations. We got 100+ thousand. It is so easy to go to get $100,000 of student loan. It is too. You do 4 years. And, oh yeah, be the first person in your family to go to college. Yeah, generational, all this stuff. Yeah, when you finish, you're gonna owe us $110,000, by the way. So if you graduate with that and you're expected to go out here and buy a house, a car, like if when you graduate that, credit score is gonna go just drop. So if you want, and everything you're gonna get now is a high interest. All these high interest loans, high interest home loan, higher. Actually, a lot of us can't even qualify for home loans. Got to go in an apartment. High interest uh, auto loans, high everything, high interest, high interest, high interest. That's why I say the only race in America is green. It's green. So we're going to be spending money, but it's not going to be in the economy we think of the economy. I call this like the backdoor economy, where they're making
The what?
I call this like the backdoor economy. That's where the big ups, the big, they're making money off of, like student loans, mortgages, auto loans. Like, think about how much it costs for a freaking car. A car that used to be $6K when we were coming up is now like $25,000, $23,000. A little 4-cylinder car shouldn't cost 18, 19,000.
It's
Shouldn't
certainly a newfound world.
Yeah,
Not only in the midst of a technological newfound real estate reality. It's in terms of the inflation, of life in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Certainly there's that seems to have been priming quite massively into today. And what does it all mean anyway, right? What does it all mean anyway, especially for our kids? Say there's anyone watching this our conversation and are in their teens or in their early 20s. I'm very curious, what it is that it's like for them to look through the lens of such topics and conversations and wonders that we're having into their forecasting of their journey. So yeah, man, if I'll ask this, let me ask this question before I ask you this last question, brother. Where can people find you? Where can people see your expressions of thought? What's your Instagram plug and what other platforms?
Yeah, man. So right now I got Facebook. You find me on there, Alonzo Ellison. Also,
and by the way, I totally butchered last time. I said Elizondo, man. Ellison, brother. Ellison. No. Sorry.
Yeah,
go for it.
no, I am not Carlos Elizondo. That's not me.
Great player, by the way. But yes.
Yeah. So Facebook. I have a Facebook music page. Also, just my name plus music. Don't really have too much on it, but probably around January, that page is really going to start popping. But there, I also have a trumpet page because Trumpet Player HQ. That's also going to start popping probably around December. Getting a lot of educational things lined up for that page.
Beautiful.
And then have a SoundCloud page as well.
Great.
Listen on SoundCloud. I'm waiting on a new microphone. I do have a microphone that I would have used.
Hey. Well, but, I guess we need round 2.
Yeah, it's not working very well. So I got to order a new microphone. And so as soon as I get that, I will be making music and posting it there. And yeah, that's pretty much all we can
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Black American Trumpeter.
There it is.
So that's me on Instagram as well. So
Beautiful.
yeah,
Well,
man.
so the question that I want to ask is, through your eyes, what would you offer helps you remain? And I know you covered a lot of this. You're welcome to reframe it another way or share an additional bit of information. What helps you remain a sort of center, and even when, or even what allows you to capture or recognize within yourself, you know what, I'm being a little bit on the overly biased side of things, on like, why am I supporting this guy so much, or why am I so against this idea? What, first off, and how do you pull back from that? How, or perhaps what? How do you how do you turn that into? Well, I don't want to just live in the bias side. I'd rather reinforce it with, deep justifications. Here's my data. Here's my primary source. Here's my all the extent of beef. What comes to mind?
Um, I mean, I would have to say, you have to just be open to information. You have to look at information unbiased. Have to, you have to look at information. Like I tell people, I think life in general is with grains. We have the same. We all got the same.
Life in general is, sorry, breaking out.
Yeah, I take life in general with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized at the end of the day, it's not like politicians and all that kind of stuff. Really, it's going to be what it is. Or we, like I say, if we had a voice, like we wouldn't have the electoral college. So it's a matter of like stopping, turning the TV off, and just looking at reality. Reality is not what's on television; it's what you see day to day, the life you're living every day. And if people would just realize and remember how to live, then I don't think we would be in this place. If people just start living, they'd actually see that we're actually pretty freaking harmonious here in the United States. Right?
We're pretty what?
We're pretty harmonious as a
Harmonious,
people
yeah.
here in the United States. I mean, if it were so, then all these interracial relationships happen.
Well, one thing's for sure, it's just south of our border. There's certainly a lot more activities, the likes of which, if it did occur in this country, just another side of a river, certainly not dictated by the river, but the kind of abstract boundaries, the abstract order that is very clear within peoples. Uh, it's I could only imagine how much of a what kind of world that would be like if the likes of what is happening there was happening here.
I just think. Are you talking about like down south of the border of us?
Yeah, like for example, with our, with respects to our neighbors, our Mexico. I love Mexico. I've been there. I've loved the playing music there. Shout out to Monterrey, and it's. I remember crossing the border as on with my bare feet, as a child, and into my teens, even getting my braces done there as a kid, because it was it was just, not only was it incredibly, the pricing was so much less than the United States, but just walking around getting lost, and it's just so mysterious how much of a distant blur that has become culturally.
Yeah, it really is, and it goes back to that instant gratification from an early age. You see these kids getting iPads. They're like 2 years old, have an iPad. Like, how are they going to learn how to tear a toy apart and try to put it back together, or learn that the stove is hot? If you touch this fire, it's going to burn you. There's no chance for them to learn. So
Even socially.
Right. So all of their learning, all of it is predetermined and it's guided. It's predetermined with, like how they give us standardized testing, like when we had like TOS and tax and stuff come in the picture. I feel like they have that as kids.
Well, if I may be a little playful here, What's different between that and the guidance of the word?
The guidance. So I mean, like for instance, like this political stuff.
Perhaps the
People,
difference between processed, like the way there's processed meat, there's
yeah,
different dimensions of good quality
right.
processed
So
meat and not so healthy.
you got like little kids learning how to be hateful from the internet, not from their
Ooh, I want to hear that. It blurred off a little
yeah.
bit.
Oh, I was saying, for instance, you have little kids now, all colors, learning how to be hateful
Hateful,
from
hateful.
this being in front of them versus their like physical people around them. So their
Mm,
this level is like more. I'd say it's more dangerous because it's more carefree because they don't have the reality of like, oh, well, if I punch this person, hit them really hard, like they might cry. Like they don't have that reality. You
it's full
know, they're
fledged.
saying,
Boom.
right, right, exactly, exactly. So
So,
I think,
are you saying we should all take a jujitsu class as kids? There should be a jujitsu class.
no, I'm saying I think there should be, kids should not be in possession of technology until the age, like
Until
outside
mm,
of school, like to be able to physically have, you know, an iPad. For instance, kids they go to school on a computer now. There's
21, bro.
Chromebooks.
It's like if it's like if you can't drink, then you can't use your phone.
Oh, and I think that like I say, a lot of it just has to do with simply not having to interact with humans, like not having to find the pile of bikes at, not having to be at home before the lights
Mm,
turn on. You know,
yeah.
it's just there's no order. There's no like order. You know,
There's a
there's
blur
no.
of time.
It's a blur of time. It's a blur of behavior. I feel like there is no social reaction, social interaction. Really, it's all in this virtual world.
I'm gonna call this episode a blur of time.
A blur of time, man. It's
Yeah,
all a blur before
and
you know it.
and the game is how can we sharpen the always inevitable blur? Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Alonzo Ellison, not Doe, not Doe. Be sure to follow his thoughts. And once again, for my good friend, shall all good continue to flow.
Likewise, man.
Woo!